is in strategic innovation manager at Achmea. This is the largest Dutch insurer. He aims to keep Achmea relevant in the 21st century. And without further ado, Jeroen, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give you an update on the UBI working stream, users-based insurance, at MOBI. And so first, I'm Jeroen Bartelse. I work for Achmea, large Dutch insurer for strategic innovation. As said, I'm the vice chair, and the chair of this working committee is Michael Fisher from AIY and Toyota. He isn't here, but he has put in an immense amount of time in all the progress and all the documents. So I clearly wanted to mention him. Then users-based insurance. As Chris already said, we are about users-based insurance, but when we were starting this working group, we had discussions, would we be users-based or users-based insurance? In talking to the MOBI guys, we were more or less exploring what is the difference. And then they said, well, if you are users-based, you're also doing taxes. So we very quickly decided we will start out as user-based insurance because we have knowledge in that and we want to stay far away from taxes. But it will become a bit more fuzzy because if you say, if you pay for roads, then it's more or less probably the same as paying for insurance. So the scope will be broader than just insurance, but we start out as insurance. And then users-based insurance is insurance that is based on the usage of the car. So we use data and sensors. So in the past, we have all kinds of static models to calculate premiums. If you look at, I'm from Holland, then we more or less take the age of the driver, the postal code, and the type of the car, and then we calculate the premium. And we say in this new world, we are going to change this. We want to know how someone is driving the car. And it is an interaction between driver and person that makes it, it's very interesting as well. And you need also all kinds of different data, also the context of the car. Most insurance options now talk with, do you drive fast, brake fast, and accelerate fast? And if you do that a lot, then apparently you are a dangerous driver. But there's no study that actually supports that people that do this make more accidents, which is also interesting. And if you brake hard and it's at the school, maybe it's a good thing, then a bad thing. And you should not be punished but rewarded, because so you need to know where is this person driving, how is he driving. I have a car with adaptive cruise control, so very often my car brakes, and I test out all those devices and apps, and all the time I'm being set as an aggressive driver, and it's like, well, it's not me, it's the car. So you need to know how someone is interacting with the car, and so this means like also new revenue models for insurers, new ways of calculating premium. So for us it's a new world, and it's interesting because you need the data from the car, but not just only the cars, a lot more data as well. So some examples of the user-based insurance. The top one, connected car. So you need the data of the car and to get the insurance with car share. Now you just take a car and you can drive it. Maybe you want to know who's in the car, and maybe you want to price it differently than someone that smashes all his rental cars. Maybe you should pay a higher amount if he rents a car, or maybe you don't want him to rent a car. So you want fleet management, things like autonomous vehicles, and V2X. V2X is interesting. It's like vehicle to everything communication. In that case, we certainly don't want to define any standard in that field. Also with the rest of the examples, we want to use the data that determines how the car is being operated and not how the car is behaving. So anything that the car decides how to drive, all those things, that's up to the car, but the behavior part is the interesting part for us. And with V2X communication, we want to know how someone responds on a message because that can be interesting. If two cars have some kind of, or if a traffic light communicates that it's red and the person still decides to continue to drive, then this information is interesting, and it gives some kind of context. So we are definitely not going to specify vehicle-to-X communication, but we want to interpret whatever is being said for those fields that determine the behavior of the person in the car or the car itself. And also like policy servicing and claims handling. The good part of being in this working group is that, for example, with Mike, that has a lot of links with Toyota, we say, okay, if the vehicle identity, if a vehicle gets an identity, then if two cars hit each other, the cars know already who hits who. And then with the input for Toyota, they said it's not just that two cars know exactly who hits who, because there's all the other cars around with all the sensors. So if you can get all those data, you can fill out the crash form more or less automatically. And the cars know who was driving where, at what speed. What they don't yet know is if the condition of the road, if the traffic light was green or those things. But with vehicle-to-X communication, all this data will be important as well. So you know lots of things. So the person in the car doesn't only maybe needs to sign off because to say, yeah, this actually happened. And all the other things can be done automatically. It's not yet that far, but the directions are going or the developments are going into that direction. Then the mission statement. So for us, this working group is it's about defining the standards for usage-based insurance. What is it and how can those be implemented in the blockchain? It's the same as the vehicle identity working group. We are not going to develop anything in the blockchain. We want to have some kind of standards in which ideally they all are implemented in the same way, or via the same standards, because then you have interoperability between cars and insurers. The working group exists of different members. So these are the ones that are, I think it's the states of last week. We have weekly calls, and very, very often we have to reintroduce everyone because there's new members coming along all the time. But it's this very interesting group. We have the top one is like insurers. We have very big reinsurers on board, which is excellent news for us because we think the more large insurers are involved, the chances that the standards being accepted are higher, of course. We have Denso, which is a car parts manufacturer, so they deliver sensors, so we have access to sensors. We have car OEMs and some technical parties that are working with us and are interested. So we can, as of last week, officially Swiss Re joined, so now they were already talking to us in the working group, and now they are officially joined MOBI. So this is the group for now, and next week it can be different. So it's like very dynamic, and it keeps on changing and growing, which is a good thing, because with the more people we have on board, we're talking, for example, now also to telecommunications companies, because we have cars, reinsurers, insurers, and car supply parts. We don't yet have the connectivity of the car to anything else on board, so we're working on that. We are definitely not working on our own. We have lots of interaction between the vehicle identification, because the ID of the car is one of the bases that we are going to work on. There is going to be a supply chain working group, which is also very interesting for insurers, because if a car has an ID and you can connect all the different parts of a car to this one ID, there's no use of stealing any parts, because you cannot put them in another car, because the other car says, hey, this part's going to be stolen. Very interesting for us as insurers. And also with the identity, we are still looking at where does, for example, the vehicle, the history of the vehicle fit in, all the maintenance that it had in the past. Does it belong to UBI? Is it the usage of the car? Is it the identity? Or so it's somewhere in between, and we have to decide who is going to take up on this. But we do collaborate with these working groups in order to avoid that we invent something that the VID team says is totally impossible, and the other way around. Then timeline. So how does this work? So there's lots of people, and suddenly there's some kind of working group. So how does this work? I will talk you through this. We started on July 5th. I could find it in my agenda that, and the week before, I think, was in one of the working groups, or one in the meetups. They said we want to start a users-based insurance working group. And then we thought, as an insurer, we should be part of that. And there was one other insurer, there was AIY. So we spoke to them, and we had a call. So the June 5th, there was the initial call. Almost immediately after, guys from Munich Re said, hey, a very big reinsurer in the world, said, oh, we find this very interesting, can we join as well? So then I think the next week we said, okay, now we just start and we will see how this is going. For us, it's very good that the vehicle identifier, the VID team already exists, because we could copy lots of things from them and learn lots of their learnings. And with Dave, who is present in both working groups, was very good to link all the lessons learned. We have a call every Monday night at, I think, 9 a.m. American time, which for me is like 6 p.m. in the evening. So that works fine. The first thing we did is to define use cases, to see what is users-based insurance, how does it work, which use cases are the most relevant for us to find, and for which use case do we want to define some kind of standard. Then at the same time we started talking to like the tech parties, to Hyperledger, to R3, also to Dion, like how could they help us in identifying what do you want on-chain or off-chain. Other things was okay, but first we need to redefine the use cases. And in our world, if you look at the insurance world, you have MOBI, which is in a consortium, but you have also B3I, which is a big consortium with insurers and reinsurers that really looks at the process within reinsurance. So if an insurer finds the risk too big, it can insure this risk at a larger insurer. And those processes are mainly done via email. So they're making big progress. And in America, you have RiskBlock, which is only an American consortium with insurers that looks at more the back office processes of insurance. And Munich Re and Swiss Re are involved in all those consortium. So we said we don't want to do something here that's being done in another consortium, because that would be a waste of time. So we more or less tackled those things. Then in September 12th, we had a meetup in London with a large part of the participants. That's the first time we actually came together, and was hosted by IBM, by Matthew Jones, that also did the VID working group. And that worked really well. And so we defined the use case in depth. What are the use cases? We defined personas. How is this persona going to use this car? When is he driving? What kind of data is needed at what moment? And based on that, we worked on an RFI. And the RFI was sent out, I think, yesterday to the whole community, similar to the VID team, that we want to open discussions to people to say, is this complete? Can you do something on it? Can you work on this? Does it make sense? And so we started later, so we're running behind, but it's good because we do get lots of their lessons we can implement. And I think for any working group that starts even later, it will be even easier. But it is interesting, and it's fun because we have lots of different views on the same subject. But it's not just insurers talking, but here is insurers, car manufacturers, and Denso, and some tech parties that look at the same problem with a completely different view, which makes it very interesting. Then, what are we going to do next? It's we start to start our POC period, similar to the VED team. So first we have talks. I think they start at the end of the month. Every Thursday, we will have time slots available for people that want to talk to us about the UBI use cases and how they can implement those. And then ideally, this will lead to some kind of proof of concept, that prove actually that the standard that we would like to have implemented can also be implemented. That is not just some paper exercise, but it can actually work. And then hopefully somewhere in 2019 we will have the first version of the standard ready for implementation. And then the next thing is then how can we get all those car manufacturers ready to implement the standard. So well, after we have it, it doesn't yet mean that it's getting implemented. So we have to see how this is being done. But with all those manufacturers here in the room and in this consortium, we have at least good hope that it will lead to something. And it's the chances are higher than if you do it here than if someone else invents it somewhere in a room. So we will see what 2019 will bring, but we have some high hopes, and it would be great if we indeed have a standard, because it's not only the insurers' life that will be made easier, but also the OEMs and also the parts suppliers, because each part now goes into a car. The same part goes to different car manufacturers. They use different IDs, different kind of communications. So if we could all make that a bit more standardized, it will greatly improve this whole process. So that was my talk, my update. So if there are any questions or people want to join.
Thanks, Jeroen. George Ayers, IBM. It's on? It's
Yeah.
on, all right. George Ayers, IBM. Thanks, Jeroen. So the ecosystem of UBI around the world, a lot of it is driven not by OEMs. It's driven by the insurers who are experimenting. It's driven by lots of aftermarket companies that make devices. It's driven by scoring model companies, right? Many, many other partners beyond car companies. How did your group think about that issue and how to widen the net, so to speak, or deal with the fact that you have lots of UBI activity independent of what any car company wants to do, right? There's lots of insured UBI cars that aren't endorsed by an automaker.
There's lots of options now to get data if you want to insure. You can use apps or black boxes in cars, or there's lots of people that say we want to implement our own network. For example, BMW partners with IBM. They upload all their data in an IBM cloud, and then us insurers can subscribe to that IBM cloud. But if everyone does it in their own way, and there is no standard. So if we, insurance company, want to talk to BMW and General Motors and Renault, we get totally different types of standards. And also we need to evaluate the behavior, the driving behavior also in another way. So it would be ideal if all cars would spill out the same data at the same moment, and then still each insurance company or each company can still identify this for us means aggressive driving, and this is a different type of driving. And maybe it turns out that if you drive really fast, but you don't have your phone in your hands, it might be even, maybe you pay more attention to the road than if you drive slow with the phone in your hand, things like that. And if I drive 110 miles an hour in Germany, it's totally okay. If I do this here, it will be a different story. So all those, we need to implement all those regional differences as well. Dave.
One other thing I'd add to that, George.
You get a mic.
One other thing I'd add is it's almost like tipping point theory. One of the reasons that the insurance companies are so interested in MOBI is because so many OEMs are interested in MOBI. And I think what's going to happen with the kind of downstream third parties and so forth is they're going to become more interested in the usage-based insurance standards that we're developing or specs because of all of these insurance companies that are involved. So you're right in that we should widen the net, but we have to understand who are the folks that are kind of driving whom, right, along that journey. So, and if you have folks that you think need to be part of this, tell them to give us a call. Thanks.
It's in the back.
Thank you. Alain Briançon with Cerebral AI. Where do you see regulation coming in, and how do you handle the fact that at one moment or another, governments of different size and shapes will get involved?
But that's I think that question is valid for all the working streams. Also, the VID team has they even have different laws per state here. We don't know. I don't know how we will see this. It depends, and also because each country have different regulations of what data belongs to a person, or what's private and what's not, what's public. And some countries probably want to have more data than others. But I don't know how we will. We don't just have a plan on how to deal with this, I think.
I read through the meeting notes and the RFI and everything, and I thought it was like super thoughtful. And my fundamental question, though, is like I understand the value of open standards. I'm not quite understanding the most important reason why anybody wants this on the blockchain in the next 2-3 years. So what do you think the biggest, why should this be on the blockchain? Why is this a blockchain thing instead of just an open standards thing?
It's we have those talks as well, and in the RFI, there's with each data point, there's a question: do you want it on chain or off chain? And certain aspects probably you don't want on a blockchain anyway. Or if you put all the sensor data on a blockchain, then it would take lots of energy consumption, which is of no use as well. But it can be very beneficial if you have some very specific or important transfers or so on a blockchain. So if you say who is driving which rental car when, those kind of things could be beneficial. And also who owns the car at which moment is very beneficial. Now, if you look at car manufacturers, if they create a car, then it goes to an importer. They send it to a dealer. The dealer sells the car, and then someone says in the factory, "Oh, this specific part needs to be replaced." No one has an idea where those cars are that have those parts in them. And if you put certain aspects on the blockchain, you can very easily track this. And I think for insurance, it's more or less the same. You know exactly who was driving which car, maybe when. But we do have discussion. We certainly don't want to put everything on the blockchain. And we still have to look exactly which things do we want to have on a blockchain or a ledger. But using smart contracts for mobility, for a policy, will be very beneficial as well. So there will be data on the blockchain. But we have in our next month or so, with talks to people that have solutions, we were going to ask this same question as well. you will get a mic, I think.
I would think the most important reason to put all the data on the blockchain is from a consumer perspective. You know, right now, if I want to change insurance companies, the new insurance company is limited in the data it has to effectively what I've disclosed or DMV, but they are not getting the data from my current insurance company for the new one to evaluate. It may not be to the insurance company's advantage, the first one's doing this, but from a global perspective and a consumer perspective, having that data universally available to anybody the consumer authorizes to see it should be the overwhelming reason to do it this way.
We do have in our RFI proposal, the portability of data is one of the things, because if you define a standard and people are going to use worst case like 20 different blockchains to implement this, and you want to switch from insurer, you still have the same problems as today. So we say also we see the portability of data, that's also a thing, because if one insurer knows my driving score and I want to go to another one, somehow they should get access to it or get the result or anything. So yes, work on that.
All right, so we better stop it there.